Welcome to another episode of God Yay or Nay. I'm here with Shane Norte. Shane, thanks for joining me, my man.
Hey, how you doing, Nora? Good to be with you, man. Good to be on here, man.
Oh yeah, no, I'm doing good, buddy. Thanks for coming on. You have such a cool story and cool work that you do. Yeah, let people know what's your story, a little bit of what you do as well, because it's such a interesting work.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I'll take it from the beginning, but just for short, just intro. Name Shane Norte, coming out of Southern California, from the Morongo band of Indians. You started my own church, Church of the People, for Creator, Mother Earth. Basically, work with plant medicines. Basically just to help people, reconnect themselves and bring them back, to a different understanding that will, help them possibly better themselves. So in that time, like I said. Take to the beginning real quick. Back in 2018, I lost my father to cancer, and in that time, I was going through a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, and so I decided to get a hold of my brothers who, work with NAC, Native American Church. They use peyote to heal, sacrament and whatnot in their church, and so I brought them out to California, and from there, I let them know what's going on and what happened. So we had a peyote ceremony, and in that time, I was able to heal. I was able to come to some beautiful terms of the passing of my father. To witness the healing of not only old traditions, but just as a person who hasn't necessarily been to so much ceremony, to be able to have people come by and offer that hand of help. So it was beautiful, and in that time, I was able to come to realization, that we needed to have help not only for myself and family, but for the tribe and other people who are willing to explore these ways of healing and understand, the depth of what it is necessarily that Native Americans do within their space of healing, whether it's ceremonies or customs. There's many different things. Native people had a array of way of praying and healing. So to be able to use that, it was powerful and beautiful. And from in there, I started working on my medicine, which is psilocybin mushrooms. I started to just adapt them into the Wamkish. And so Wamkish is the big house. And for the people where I come from, my mother's side is the Liseño, also located Southern California, maybe about 30 minutes outside of Temecula. And so in that time, I started to understand, the cultures of what we had as people in terms of our ceremony and our lodge. And so I just started to get accustomed to it and using the medicine. And from there, I really started grounding myself because, like I said, prior before the passing of my father and coming back to California, I was doing activist work in Arizona. I was helping the brothers defend their land against a foreign mining company that was trying to extract $60 billion worth of copper. And so
Mm.
in that fight, that's where I learned a lot of my just a lot of my native understandings. Like I said, of just being a ceremonial person or being amongst other ceremonial natives. Starting to get accustomed to how things were and protocols and certain things like that. Just how to carry yourself around, these sacred spaces, whether it be mountains, rivers, springs, you name it. There's many different spots, natives consider sacred. And so that's where I basically learned a lot of my teachings as to be a native person. Because growing up, my mom or dad, they didn't really teach me anything about being native. I always tell people that for some generations it skips, and not on purpose. It's just a necessarily of like through colonization, religion, assimilation, all the things that were put onto the people. Some of the generations weren't taught any ceremony or culture or language. So that was part of my generation and my family. So I wasn't able to learn anything. So it was cool to be able to, like I said, travel, learn, and then come back home and then get accustomed to the process of what we had at home to heal.
Hmm.
So it was very beautiful to get in touch because, like I said, I never grew up. So to actually be connected and to feel that healing and basically just the love of that land, the love of everything that was there is beautiful and powerful. And so I just started working. I started building my craft better. Just like anyone gets better at anything, you practice. You don't just wake up and you're just an expert. So like I said, I started sweating, started talking with more of my friends, my family, and just expressing to them like, hey, I got healing from this, and this medicine, it helped me, reconnect back to who we are as people here. So like I said, I started getting more family and friends involved. And then from there, I basically kind of was like, I can't be the only one, you know. I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
can't be the only one who understands like psychedelic medicine helps, you know. So I started searching the internet, and I came across Decriminalize Nature Oakland, which in 2019 in June unanimously had psilocybin and other entheogenic plants decriminalized in the city of Oakland. So I was like, hey, that's pretty cool, you know. And I
Yeah.
ended up, you know, writing the CEO, the co-founder of the org, and I just let him know what we do, you know, and how we practice medicine. And he's like, I'm gonna come down, you know, I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna check you out. And like I said, from there, you know, he came in and we had a beautiful ceremony. And from there, we just started connecting. Because after that, you know, he started plugging me into the people he knew, to the people that, you know, he understands through his work. Because at the time, it was gaining a lot of momentum, still is, you know, as you can see in the psychedelic movement. And
Mm-hmm.
from there, like I said, I just started getting plugged into other people, whether it was veterans, UFC fighters, NHL players, you name it. And then soon after all that progress, I ended up becoming voted on the board. So I ended up becoming a board member of Decriminalized Nature. And basically from there, I've just been working, you know, just working and perfecting on getting basically more people involved and more awareness, you know, and also in the process started the church just to give extra protection and also to give us that space, you know, because there's not a
Yeah.
lot of native spaces that have that spiritual, I guess, safeguard, because we have stuff on the reservation, but as far as like reservations protecting sovereignty of like freedom of religion, it's really hasn't been expressed too much. So that's why I'm trying to create this model to let tribes know, like, hey, you know, we should first and foremost defend our rights for our ceremonies, for our culture and our beliefs, even though we have the Native Religious Freedom Law Act, but it's like not too many people have, I guess you could say, expressed it in the forms of what it should really express and what it should really entail. It's more so of like it's just out there, but there's real no natives, I could say, that have really enforced the federal government and the tribal governments to basically protect them, just like any other religion. You know, any other religion in the state, you know, in the United States is protected federally and statewide. So it's like, why
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why the native people can't have that same right, you know?
Hell yeah. Yeah, man. That's a lot you said. I love it. There's a few different things I'd want to talk about. First, I didn't know about this. You said like when you were raised, like you weren't really didn't know too much about your culture that much. So when was like something in your life that made you go like I want to go back to my roots. I want to find out more about my ancestors.
Yeah, definitely. It was after high school. I started playing at junior college, and I was basically going to use the football platform to go to my reservation and just be like a base model to say like, hey, you know, you can get out of the reservation, you know, you get a good education, you can play sports, whatever, you know. I was going to use that as my platform. And then all of a sudden, I had a brother who I was playing football with, and he was like, he's like, hey man, he's like, you ever try mushrooms? And I was like, no. I was like, I haven't. And he's all, hey, you should check them out, you know. He's all, I don't know what to say. He's all, but when you pray with him, he's all, it feels like God can hear you, you know. He's like, that's the best thing I could say. And he's all, I'll give you some for free, you know. And I was like, all right. And so
We
within
all
that
have one of
moment,
those
you
friends.
know, yeah, right. And within that moment, man, it was just like instant connection back to like what my ancestors already knew. And it was like fulfilling to know that I have a chance to now engage in what my people knew and kind of just, I guess you could say, do it at ease. Not saying it's not going to be, you know, hard, but now that I'm able to have the tool to go back into that, I guess you could say, conscious way of thinking, I had it. So it felt good to now be able to say, like, you know, here you go. Now, like, do what you want with it in a good way. You know what I mean?
Hell
Not
yeah.
saying like I can run everywhere and do what I want, but just do things in a good way, you know?
That's awesome, man. All right, so like let's give our audience a little bit of an idea of what your ceremonies are like. Yeah, maybe like how like yeah, how you conduct them and like maybe anything that you use in them as well. Like I want to hear all the details.
Yeah, definitely, man. So like, let's say you were to come down, we'd go up to our sacred mountain. So just a little quick brief on the story. So where I stay at, Originally, that's not our original territory as Payokachim, which means the Westerners. We're originally from Oceanside, but when the world flooded, we caught the so-called San Luis Rey, and it took us all the way up to Palomar Mountain, and we sat up on that mountain until the water subsided, which is now our home. So just to give a little brief short on, like, I tell people how that story is like equivalent to like a Noah's Ark type of deal, like a Noah's Ark type of story. And I always tell people, like, that's something that we always revere sacred, the mountain where we're at, that spot that we're located at. And so now back to where I explained, now that's the mountain we go to go get the medicine, which is the cedar. We go, and then there's spring water up there too. So we'll go up to the mountain and we'll give offerings and we'll collect the cedar. And then we'll go to the springs and we'll collect the spring water. And then we'll make our way down and we'll go get the sage, because there's white sage. It grows naturally all back there.
Oh, wow.
All throughout the mountains. So we'll go back there and we'll collect our own sage. And then we'll head back to the house. And basically we'll get our canvas and we'll set up the wamkish. And we'll go rake it out. We'll clean it up. And basically in that time, I always tell people, as all that's happening, you break down like what it is you're here for, why you're here, what do you need, what do you not want in terms of like what's not bettering you in your life. Like, I always tell people, in all the process of all those things, it's like you're preparing yourself. You're getting yourself ready for what's to come. As you're cleaning it, as you're setting up, you're setting your intentions. Then you should already set your intentions before you came. But I always tell people, at that moment, it's the time to prep. Just like before people get ready for anything, you have your ways to prep. So I always tell people, in that moment is the time of prepping. And so then from there, after we set up the wonkish, we'll go inside and I usually make dinner. We usually have like buffalo. Lately we need some deer, so we'll have like some good stuff, some vegetables and whatnot. And then we eat. We have about an hour and a half of like a cool down period. That's where we get all the medicine prepped and we cut all the branches down and get everything cleaned up. And then I'll basically just go over everything with everybody about like, we're about to begin. These are the protocols. These are what we need to do. And then we'll make our way out and I'll start the fire. And from then we begin our journey, and it starts from about 9 to about like 4 in the morning. So we're out there for a pretty good amount of time. And then from there, like I said, we'll get some rest, and then we'll head on inside, rest up. And then we wake up and we'll take everything out of the wonkish, and then we'll go to the sweat lodge and we'll start setting up the sweat lodge. And then from there, we'll go to the river. We'll go get our rocks. We'll clean up the sweat lodge. We'll set it up, start the fire. And then we'll purify our mind, body, and spirit of the journey of the night before. Because I tell people it's a lot on the mind. It's a lot on the spirit. If a spirit needs to be cleansed, there's a lot of things that people go through. So I say in this moment, or even just a matter of like recalibration in terms of like decompressing everything you went through and breaking things down at a pace that now you can come to terms with, rather than it just be so at 100 miles an hour. So it kind of helps you slow it down and reintegrate what you went through and kind of break it down to where you can catch up to it.
Yeah, man, that sounds amazing, and I love the sweat lodge at the end. Those things can be intense. I've been in those before, and like it was in a medicine ceremony as well. And like afterwards, you're right. It like feels like you're cleansing yourself so much of like everything, right? And yeah, no, that's cool. And oh my God, the sweat lodges they're rough, man. I'm a Canadian, man. I'm cool with cold, so when it's too hot for me, it's a little rough. So I want to know a little bit because we've talked a bit before, and I know we talked about ceremony a lot. And you always, the way you explain the importance of ceremony and how you need to bring this back to like Native communities, especially. Can you maybe go a little bit more in depth in that and like tell people like what you mean by that?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, a lot of Native communities, they're there. I'm not gonna sit here and like bash my own people and be like, oh yeah, communities aren't there. They're there. But in terms of like overall ceremony and the cultures and customs that we as Indigenous people once had, very few. There are some tribes that have their culture and stuff, and I always say it's beautiful. It's very beautiful, but at the overall whole of like our people and our youth, man, there's a lot of drugs, there's a lot of substance, there's a lot of, just poor choices that are leading to suicides, murders, deaths, incarcerations, violence. And I'm not saying it's just like out the roof, but as far as like as small as our communities are, yeah, it's pretty crazy, like. So that's one thing that I want to bring back are the ceremonies, because regardless of what people say in terms of like our communities, our ceremonies is what kept us like aligned, balanced, and helped us understand like what could happen if we like mess up, and not just mess up like petty, but like really mess up. Because I always tell people like that's one thing our people did for like boys in the puberty rite ceremonies is coming up into manhood, going through the Wamkish. It showed you like what could happen if you do the right thing and what could happen if you do the wrong thing. So to me, like I feel like a majority of people, they never get that real choice because they're so like forced into whatever, whether it's work, jobs, school, you name it. There's a lot of things that people just kind of don't have a big like factor in to like decide what they want to really do in life after like going through all the shitter, and then even going through the shitter,
Mm-hmm.
you're still in the shitter. So like that's kind of like where for me as indigenous man of ceremony and a person who comes from indigenous communities of ceremony, yeah, that's what we need, because we all know that this system does not get us to where we need. Like go to school, get a job. Okay, cool. Ask all the people who have highest degrees, and there's some people that, yeah, they're getting paid good, they're working, but a lot of them, like, I guarantee you, wish they had something to do else with the time that they wasted in terms of like family, relationships, loved ones, you name it. Like, you can't get that time back. So for me, like, I'm trying to get that to my people to express, like, hey, you want to be a doctor, you want to be this, you want to be that. Go ahead. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't ever forget who you are and never forget your roots,
Mm-hmm.
because as far as like indigenous people, like where we come from, we have enough like economy to go do what we want. And that's where, like, for me, I'm trying to provide the spaces for ceremony to get the youth back to where they need to be. And then also with the resources we have to go to other less fortunate tribes and give them that resource, whether it's ceremony, whether it's fresh water, fresh food, community, whatever. But I definitely, we need that ceremony back, and we need the rights to do it without being bothered by the federal government or state.
Hell yeah. And yeah, and I love how you're saying that ceremony, because like even like you're saying like a rite of passage, like you're growing up and you're like at a certain age that you're kind of ripe for this kind of ceremony to kind of show you like a proper way to live life. And I think that's amazing. And like so many indigenous communities have this. So when I started doing medicine work, I did it with ayahuasca down in the jungle with the Shiopa tradition. And it's this exact like very similar stuff they talk about. It's like you have to have these ceremonies to keep people together and to give them like that rite of passage in their life. And I find that amazing that you're trying to bring this back, because I do think it does a huge amount of positive impact, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so I know the first ceremony that you did, you said you worked with peyote. Can you maybe give us, because I'm not very familiar with it. I know it's the cactus, and in the desert they use it a lot. Can you give us a little idea of the difference between that, maybe compared it to like mushrooms, and what it
Yeah, I always tell people like think of it as like a scenic cruise versus like a drag strip. When you're going down a drag strip, you don't always see what's cruising by, but when you're cruising, sometimes you can look out and you can see what's going by and you can enjoy the scenery.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in terms of what I'm trying to say is just the amount of information and how fast it's coming. Both are coming at very fast rates of speed, but considering the fact of like how a peyote ceremony is structured, it gives it that space for the peace, because there's a lot of songs, there's a lot of drumming, there's a lot of things of that nature. As far as like now how I run my mushroom ceremony, I always tell people, Creator Mother Earth, as loving as everybody loves them to be, it's not always there. So what I'm trying to say is for a human, sometimes you need to get that. sometimes you need to know the world's cold. Sometimes you need to know, yeah, your ass can be crushed at any minute. So it's like, what I'm trying to say is both play their parts, but in similarities and differences. And similarities both get you to where you want to be, whether it's here or there. But in terms of the differences, one has a lot more time in terms of like the duration and also the amount of, like I said, work that goes into it. And then, like I said, now how I run the mushroom ceremony, it's kind of like, it's just like a shotgun ceremony. I tell people, like, you can have a long wedding ceremony and then you can have a short wedding ceremony.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
in the end, if you're really down for it, you're getting there.
Yeah, yeah,
So what I'm trying to
100%.
say is, if you're really sincere in both spaces, you're gonna get what you need to get.
Hell yeah. That's really cool. No, I really like that. So I want to talk a little bit about your activism as well because I do really respect this. Like I know like one of the biggest protests that like I think the whole world heard about was like the Standing Rock protest, and you were right there on the front lines, weren't you?
Yes,
And like yeah,
yes,
this was the
definitely.
protest against the pipelines, and yeah, I don't know. Can you tell us a little bit of what you kind of learned from that protest?
Yeah, no, I definitely learned the fact that like my people could still come together in hard times, and also for the right things, whether it be water, community, ceremony, you name it. I was able to see the unity of the people, and then I was also to see, you know, that times really have not changed in terms of like how the government works and how the government has always used like other entities to do their work other than this themselves taking up ownership for not only destroying this earth, but we're destroying people and their
Mm-hmm.
communities and their way of life and their way here on earth. And it just showed me that my ancestors weren't wrong, and it showed me that it hasn't changed. Because like I said, there were armed people there. There were military, special force people there. And to me, they were just waiting to see a gun or hear of a gun being over there, or like waiting to have any excuse, because it's already there, and it's already, they know that's like our mentality, when reality that's not really our mentality. Just like right now, what's going on in the country, how it's a lot of it is psychologically fueled actions, meaning like, yes, people make their choices, but it hits them in the mind, so it's psychologically tuned to hit triggers. It's all triggers, just like they know showing up to a native protest in native land like that would trigger a response that they were hoping to get. And I'm glad that my people understand that that's not what we're about. Like I said, we've already been through the war days. We've already been through the slaughter. We've
Mm-hmm.
already had guns shot at us and, massacre our people. So it's like any logical person would not want to relive that again. Like, at least
Mm-hmm.
unless you love war. So it's like, but as far as I was there and the people I was around, that's not what we're about. So like I said, it was able to show my people the strength we still have, and the fact that we're able to still stand up for our water. Because outside of the people were there, where was the rest of the people? Because everyone needs clean drinking water. So it's like, I don't know. Do people really care about their water?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. There's people who do. I'm not gonna sit and be like, oh yeah, not everyone cares about water, but a majority of people don't.
Well, it's I agree with
So
you.
that's where, like, for me, it just.
Hey man, I agree with you. Honestly, like with the water, like I think if you ask anybody, they're gonna say like, yeah, of course I like want to protect our clean water and all that stuff, but like the actions don't really match the words, and I can understand that completely. And like I know, like when you do these protests and everything, like the government comes in like with like heavy military and like heavy like arms and shit like that. Like how do you even look at that when you're standing up to like that kind of power?
Not only that, but they even get like groups that work within like the groups that are doing like the actions and the ones that like work with the leaders and people who organize the events. And it's like, it's kind of crazy, you know, to see like all that happening, you know, because for like a time I was like, you know, it ain't real. But then you got to understand, like, these are billion-dollar corporations that not only are just here, but they're all coincided everywhere, whether it's Canada, whether it's here, whether it's down south, like all these pipelines. That's why they're having this shit right now with the Keystone in Canada, like to Canada, and all these people are like, oh, we're out of jobs, the welders, da, da, da. And it's like, yeah, well, what about the fucking native lands and the environment, ecosystems, and animals and all the shit that you guys have fucking damaged? Like, oh, but you want to fucking bitch about your welders? Like, come on, man. Like, you know, so that's like where I was saying, like, going back to what you were saying about what you're talking about, the armored vehicles and the people. It's like, it's crazy because like I said, it's mirroring. So it's showing both sides. It's showing what this side is willing to do, and then it's showing how far that side's willing to go. So it's crazy to know that that side is willing to kill people if necessary for a fucking pipeline or any of those other things.
Yeah. No, it's really crazy. And like the whole idea that they actually infiltrate your groups, like get people to like come on the inside and like get information and shit. That's just insane. I don't know how you, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It is. And that's what I try to tell people, like, natives have always been dealing with this at the lowest level and the highest level. I mean, goddamn, we have the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Like, they don't have a Bureau of Jewish Affairs. They don't have a Bureau of Black Affairs, Mexican Affairs. And it's like they got a file on every native in this country. They know where they live. They got their whole record through IHS. So it's like it's just insane to know that like all these things are still at our feet, you know, and to know that they're still present and heavily present on reservations. And yeah, like I said, the Standing Rock incident just showed like where the government will take it if we get into their affairs.
Mm-hmm. And yeah.
And it's crazy because how do they not expect their affairs to be our affairs when their shit runs through our lands and it's going through treaty territory? Like, how do you not expect that to be our affair?
No, 100%. And I know in Canada too, like they try to like buy out like different parts of the tribe and stuff as well. And like,
yeah, they're going. I don't know if you've been reading on right now, but they're doing a lot of stuff right now at the pipeline up there. I forgot the name, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on right now at the pipelines, and it just blows my mind how the native people don't have a voice, and we're looked at as like the antagonizers or the eco terrorists. You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
mm-hmm.
well, look at you. Have you looked at yourself? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's actually that's pretty ironic. They're calling you the eco terrorist. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? There's only one
Right?
yeah, there's only one side terrorizing the ecosystem here. Dude, that's
Yeah, it's
crazy.
not like the whole population is fucking the eco. It's like, dog, there's a real enemy, and it's big corporate, man.
That's true. No, man, that's really true. Do you, like, so now what are the different tribes in the country and stuff like? Do you see more of like people coming together from different tribes and everything? Like, how do you look at that?
At the moment, that's why I'm trying to use this mushroom movement, man, because it's like, you know, I got another podcast today, and it's basically like that's what I'm trying to use it as, because it's like, look, we can sit here all day and talk about like, oh, my culture this and my people that. Okay, but we're all facing the same traumas. Like, we're all going through this fucking, like, I guess you could say, like, degeneration of ourselves. Like, we're fucking falling through, and it's like, okay, you may not have to do what I'm saying, but if you have your culture, you have these ceremonies, why can't you be protecting them or getting behind a structure that is protecting and looking to bestow them upon the people? Like, and that's kind of like where I'm trying to get it at, because like I said, the psychedelic movement don't give a damn, like, about, like I said, any top dog in the psychedelic movement, I guarantee you he ain't showing up to the res to heal the res. So I
Yeah.
could just say that right there. Like, they don't give a damn about the native population. But now you got a native right here who knows all these big dogs who's working in the same level, just don't got these big ass names behind me, but at the same level. And now I'm working the tribes that I'm with, all billion-dollar tribes. So to me, I'm just like, outside of getting your head out your ass, this is a fucking win-win.
Mm-hmm. That
And
is a
because
win-win.
the tribes are gonna be like, oh, well, this is Schedule 1, it's gonna affect our federal. Fuck that. We've always been about plant medicine. Native people have always been about plant medicine, regardless. Just like big pharma, outside of the generic bullshit, every medicine they got comes from a plant.
Hell
So it's
yeah.
like people need to switch this bullshit fucking contradictory thought off. Every fucking thing you take is a form of a drug. If people want to get on this stupid ass thought, you know what I'm saying? Like, just
No,
fucking.
it's hey man, you're right. The big pharma, like, they plagiarize nature and like pretty much all of the chemicals they use. Like even now with like weed getting legalized, they're actually trying to like just get the synthetic chemical version of it and just be able to try to sell it like that. It's just like, nah, like there's better ways to use these things,
Mhm.
and like they use it. Yeah, you can use them more naturally, and like the effects are different, but like they take longer, but it's actually how you heal, and it's actually how you become whole again, right?
Yeah, exactly, man. And that's kind of like where I'm trying to bring back, because there's already a shitload of people. Like, there's so many fucking vegans and health nuts, and I'm not talking shit about it. I'm just saying there's a shitload of them. So that ain't going nowhere in terms of the consciousness of being healthy. So that's what I'm trying to say is like now with the COVID and the mental health, they're gonna be billion-dollar markets, right? And that's what I'm trying to tell like my tribe. Like, not only are we gonna get rich, but we could fucking help our people honestly, man. Like, because that's what I'm trying to get at is like, I don't give a damn about the money because we're already fucking billionaires. Like I said, Morongo pulls in $11 billion plus a year just off the casino alone. That's not adding the gas station, Arrowhead, and all the other shit we got with it. So it's like, we already got the money. Now you look at our people fucking dropping like flies, and that shit is scary. That shit is scary to see fucking youth from 15 to 25 dying from fucking fentanyl, dying from fucking crash. It's like, dude, with the amount of money and resources we have, like, nah. And that's why I think this is perfect time with the psilocybin, because now there's actual proof. There is scientific fucking proof, and I hate that a lot of people need that, but there's actual proof now that's saying that psilocybin in controlled settings, yada yada yada, it fucking works. You know.
That's
And that's
actually
like, for me, I'm just like, yeah, I'm not trying to sit here and be some sickle PowerPoint lecturer. It's like, this shit works, man, and everyone knows it. Like, you want to go nerd out about it? There's nerds about this shit. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
I'm pretty sure that was the conclusion in the scientific study. Like, it fucking works.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like this is actually one thing you do talk about a lot on like your website, and like what you're trying to do is like you talk about like decolonization techniques, and like changing the social structures and stuff like that. Like, do you want to maybe go a little in depth in that a little bit?
Yeah, it's simply like social structures. Like, for instance, like you can go into a social structure, and because of the modern social structure, for instance, a lot of people take things very offensive, or people get put on a defense, or people are always on this. But it's like, as far as I know, our communities were not based off those social skills. Like, those are all fear, I guess you could say, learned structure techniques through watching movies, through television, through listening to the wrong people. But it's like, as far as native structures, like a lot of those structures weren't here. So that's where I want to rebuild structures, whether it's like rebuilding through, constructive building in terms of like talking right to people, being there more for people, whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever. Like I said, being there, because a lot of days the communities have been turned to shit. Like, for instance, you can go into a housing tract and all the people live there, but it's like, it ain't like everyone hanging out with each other. It ain't
Mm.
like everyone's really the homie. You know what I mean? Like, so that's kind of like, whereas Native people, it was that people were real communities, and they were cousins, families, brothers, sisters, whatever, and they were all close knit people. So that's one thing I want to bring back to my people, my communities, and then who's to say from there? people come to a Native community and be like, God damn, like this is a community. Why can't our community be like this? Why can't? Why? And so that's where I'm trying to see this ripple effect of where, like, because obviously a lot of people think natives are this and that, yada yada yada. But so we clean up a little bit. I think it'd be a very great inspiration for people to just see, like, hey, these guys have come from the shittiest of the shit. They've been more manipulated than all of us, and they're all right. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
Because it's
Hell
like
yeah.
we've been going through this charade longer than anyone on this land base. You know what I mean? So it's like, fuck, if we're still here, you all right.
Ha, 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 ha. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And honestly, like those social structures, it's even degraded in like a lot of our big cities too. Like you can see
Yeah,
that.
whether it's the women, the children, they're just, like you said, they're degraded, man. How people really treat their social structures or communities. It's like they're very degraded.
It's sad, and like it's funny like how we're more connected in like as humans. Like, hey, you're in California, I'm up in Canada, and we're talking right now. That's pretty awesome. But like it's funny how we're more connected, but like now we have this like epidemic of loneliness as well. That's like just people don't know how to talk to each other. And then like you said, those learned behaviors of fear, like we fear like people's judgments of each other, of us, right? So like that makes us less likely to actually go and talk to people, open up to people, have community. And these are getting degraded, and especially in the big cities. I live in Toronto usually. Right now I'm back home and living in my just in my small town temporarily. But like I notice in the small town there's a lot more community, and like there is a little bit more healthiness to that. But like I remember just living in Toronto, that's like doesn't fucking exist at all. And it's scary, man. It's scary. And like you're right that we need to find ways to build these communities back up, because community is something that's just like just it's at the heart of like what humans are, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Nah, man. I do love that work you're doing, so I really do appreciate it. And I'll tell you, I'll when this fucking lockdown's over, I'll make sure I come down and do a ceremony with you guys.
Hell yeah, man. You can sit with some Navy SEALs, some fighters, whole bunch of people.
I'm a hockey fan, so
Or
invite
just
some of the.
yourself. Or just yourself.
All right, buddy. I gotta ask you the question of the podcast. So, Shane Norte, God, yay or nay?
Yay, that's a big yay.
Yeah, you want to expand a little bit more on that? Just like I know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so that's one reason why I started the church, because regardless of what religion's gonna say about my people, I've always said we've always been a firm believer of God in this earth. It was just not at the palate of them. So because it wasn't at the palate of them, they didn't like it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we didn't believe in God in this earth. And I always tell people that what's here on this earth right now, for instance, the word God alone, that's such a young phrase of expression, considering how we used to express for what people say of God. If you can get what I'm saying there.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to say is, before the word even God was expressed, we already knew about God. It just wasn't God in that word. We already had God in our own language. We already had our own language, and we already had our own understanding. And so now, to come back into this teachings through the medicine, through psilocybin mushrooms and my people, it's just showed me the reality of like that God is real. But not only that, but like God has always been real. So to be able to understand that through, I guess you could say, a DNA lineage, meaning like my people, like I said, my people have always known that. And to be some of the oldest human beings here, not in the world, but on this place so-called California, I just say that that's where I think that's what makes it that much better. And to me, I always say that's in every human being, but no human being has been taught to connect like that, other than like, that's why people are so fascinated, I always say, about like, whether it be Buddhist people, Hindus, this, you name it. It's like, if you go back long enough, every human being could connect to a God in this earth, whether they were there, here, there, So that's where I try to elaborate on, like, now getting into this work. It's like I've always knew myself that God was real, but now to do this medicine and to see it working, it's like it's totally confirmed that God is more real than anything ever. So it's like that's one perspective of how I see it, is just that my ancestors have never forgot about God or this earth, and I think that's where that drive comes from also, because it's like we're some of the oldest people here. So to me, like, I don't think anyone would have for God in this. First ones here to know that. So it's like I don't see how we could.
Oh, hey Shane, your audio went out.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, is my phone ringing? No, I was just saying that I got a call coming in, that's why.
Yeah.
But no. I was just saying because I feel like we're the only ones who can express it in that way. Like, of course, other people are gonna express it, but I feel like the way we can express it, it'll help get to the others. Because, like I said, it's old. Just like I said, you could talk to a 20-year-old man, or you could talk to a 100-year-old man. You could sit there and judge all you want, but that 100-year-old man is gonna have a lot more stories than this 25-year-old man.
Yep, 100%. So, like when you started, like with the church, like, why did you decide to call it the church? Did you ever get pushback from people in the community at all?
Oh yeah, definitely. My own people were like, "Hey, I don't like how you call it a church," and it's like, for me, I want to flip it, because I want to show. This may sound bad to people, but I don't mean it this way. I want to show the church people, not necessarily church people that go to church, but the foundations of those churches. I want to show them how bad they were, and even though how bad they were, we still took on this model and pretty much made the best we could. And so it's like, that's one reason why I call it Church of the People for Creator Mother Earth, because like I said, it's a church for the people. It's not for blacks, Jews. I don't care who you are. You're the people.
Hell yeah.
So it's like, you're the people. You know what I mean? So it's like, and what was it? For Creator Mother Earth. You know what I mean? It's just like, at the end of the day, that's what I honor for everything. No matter what I do, it's for Creator Mother Earth. So it's like Church of the People for Creator Mother Earth.
Hell yeah. All right, man. Yeah, all right. Like, I can't wait to get down there, buddy. You're making me excited.
Yeah, I can't wait too, man. Let me know, because we're ready, man. Whenever it's up and you have the time, just let me know, brother.
Hell yeah. So when you're doing the, like, where do you get the mushrooms from? You said like they grow in the mountain area as well?
Yeah, there's areas that grow up, and then also too, just have my own ways of like growing and processing, like on the church grounds. So
Sweet.
I just do my own growing in the church grounds, because once you do it on that, it's basically like, like I said, they can't do anything. It's my own medicine. You know what I mean? It's just like, there's really nothing they can fucking say.
Ha 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 ha. Hey, buddy.
Because it's like, I'm not transporting, not doing this. It's like, fuck, man, it's my medicine, man.
Nah, man, I'm pretty sure you don't really care too much about what the people in the power structures are telling you. Eh?
Yeah, hell no, man. That's why I want the people behind me, man, because this shit's gonna get deep. But fuck it, man. That's what they want.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, dude. Let the people know anything you want to let them know about where they can get a hold of you, or find out about your church, all of that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody, you want to go on Church of the People for CreatorMotherEarth.com. You type that in, you take me right to my site, and then from there, I'm on Instagram, Church of the People for Creator Mother Earth. So for short, it would be hang on a second.
Just the acronym.
Yeah, just the acronym, exactly. OFTPFCME, and that would be just like you said, the short acronym of it, and it'll come up. It'll be a picture of a fire. Can't miss it.
Nice. I'll make sure to toss that in the description for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, toss in there for sure, please.
And yeah, like anything else you want to promote or say?
Nah, man, just beautiful times. Thank you for having me on here, and there's gonna be a lot of psychedelic people out there, so everyone just make sure you guys look out for the good ones. Hey.
All right, thanks, Shane.